Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections. Finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Oi, you lot. So who's on this week's episode then, you all ask? Well, I tell you what, why don't we all find out? Why don't you sit yourselves down, put your feet up, and let's take a butcher's at some of his collection in a musical montage.
Okay, again, another absolutely fantastic collection, and the time, the effort, and the amount of hard work that goes into this man's customs is absolutely tremendous. And they say fans do the best work, and this man is no exception. It's an absolute honor and a pleasure to welcome Keith Knight to the channel. Hello, Keith. How are you, sir?
Oh, Stu, I'm very well, thanks, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. Thank you so much for being part of this series.
Thanks for inviting me, mate. It's a great channel, and it's an honour to be here and be a part of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So this is the first time we've actually got to chat one-to-one, because normally we're in a rowdy group on a live stream, or something like that. So, but yeah,
I blame Detty. It's all her fault.
Oh, she's so. Oh, yeah. She's a bad influence. That woman, bad influence. So you know a little bit about the series. So I've got 10 questions for you, all about you and your collection. Run time roughly about an hour. If we go over, doesn't really matter. So let's crack on with the first question. What are your childhood memories, and what toy lines were you into as a kid?
I can remember quite a lot from my childhood. My long-term memory is great. My short-term memory is crap. I think that's just an old age thing.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I grew up in Stratford in East London in sort of I suppose I was born in '68. So by about the mid-70s, I was sort of playing with proper toys and stuff like that, and starting to go out and play football in the street and stuff. And it was a very poor, quite deprived part of East London. But it was a different world, different communities to the ones now, where everyone
Yeah.
sort of knew everybody and everyone was friendly, and you'd have kids playing football in the street and stuff. And I think it was probably about 1974 that I got my first
Okay.
Action Man. My first Action
Okay.
Man.
12-inch, yeah?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Well, Action Force hadn't even been thought of by then.
Okay.
And I got my first ever Action Man, and it was the Action Man Basic Soldier. And I loved him, absolutely loved him. It's like, wow, this is so cool, because you could, I didn't realise at the time. I don't think anybody did, because again, it hadn't come out as a condition until the last sort of couple of decades. But apparently, I would have had some sort of autism as a child. I was diagnosed of being on the spectrum about 7 or 8 years ago.
Oh wow!
So it's obviously something that I've had from birth.
Yeah.
So, and that explains a lot about my childhood. That made things a lot clearer to me, because I was very, very obsessive. Right? So I've got this Action Man, and now I'm sort of nagging me dad. Dad, he's no good on his own. A soldier's no good on his own. He's no good on his own. And so, of course, then for every birthday, every Christmas, I'm getting Action Man stuff. And I had the helicopter and the helicopter pilot. Then I had one of the Jeeps. And it all just built from there. And, of course, because I've always been quite interested in the military, even from the age of about, say, 6 or 7. I've always had an interest in the military and the war. I was quite aware of the Second World War and all that. And I used to get the German Action Man costumes, the uniforms.
Okay, yeah.
And so I'd have the British and I'd have the German. And again, I'd nag my dad. Dad, one German uniform's not enough. One German uniform's not enough. So I'd end up with about 4 or 5 German stormtrooper uniforms.
Yeah.
I think I ended up at one point with about 14 Action Men. And so
Wow.
I used to have them fairly evenly. I think in one of the photos that I sent you, that's the back garden of one of my old homes that I lived in 1970.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And that's got the British and the German Action Men sort of spread out, and that was only some of the collection, because I also had a Scorpion tank later in life. Then in '78, I got the fire engine. I got that for Christmas, the Action Man fire tender, which was fantastic. The police bike, of course. So even though there were other toy lines, my main and sort of sole interest really throughout that part of my childhood was Action Man. I was a massive, massive Action Man fan, and I suppose a collector, because I had multiple items. And I'd save all my pocket money up. I'd go out and buy the uniforms.
Because I mean, those vehicles were big, weren't they? I mean, they weren't small.
Yeah, they were big. I mean, looking back, they weren't exactly 6 scale. They weren't exactly the right scale, but they did the job. They did the job. I always wished that Action Man would have brought out a police car, though. I know they had the police bike.
Okay.
But that was the only police thing they did, the only civilian police thing they did. And I've always had an interest in police and policemen. I always wanted to be a policeman when I grew up. I don't suppose that's ever going to happen now, because I'm never going to grow up. But so I always wanted an Action Man police car, which never happened. But I did paint one of his Jeeps white and sort of write police all down the side of it and stuff in my terrible handwriting. So I did kind of have I suppose that's one of my first customs.
Yeah, well, we get onto those in a minute, your customs, because I think you do a fantastic job, and not the only one to say so. A lot of people in the community have said you do great customs. We get to that in a minute. What was it price wise then for those vehicles and the Action Force stuff?
I bought. I remember buying, because I saved up my own pocket money. You know what it's like when your parents are buying stuff for you. You don't really have a knowledge of value or price. You don't get it. But I do remember saving up with my own pocket money and having enough money to go and buy the military police uniform from a toy shop in Stratford Shopping Centre called Kiddie City, long gone now. And I remember it because I was buying it myself. It was £2.50 for this, obviously brand new at the time. 1970, whatever it would have been, 6 or 7. military police uniform, £2.50, brand
Wow.
new.
£2.50.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose that was that a lot of money in those days, I'm guessing.
I suppose so. It seemed to take me forever to save it up, but I mean,
Yeah.
I suppose so. Yeah. Again, I don't know really. I mean, it's I remember when I got the Action Man fire engine, we bought that down Christmas shopping down East Ham Market in East London, and I spotted it and I was like, oh, I really want that. Can I have that for Christmas? Can I have that for Christmas, Dad? And my dad sort of like, well, yeah, all right, because my dad was a bit of a big kid as well, and he used to love toys as well. He'd quite often test them out for me on Christmas Eve, him and my Uncle Bert, and so. And I remember the Action Man fire engine was £13.99, brand new in the box.
It does seem real, does it? When you look at prices of toys today compared to what they were back then, you just think, my God, inflation's gone through the roof.
Yeah, well, you think of now a boxed Action Man fire engine. I mean, I held one in my arms a few weeks ago because I had one sent here from the Leicester Toy Shop, and I had to send it on to Tony Roberts in Australia. For a couple of weeks, I had it here in my arms, and I know how much he paid for it, and it was a lot more than £13.99.
I can imagine.
It just goes to show you how the prices of these things has just absolutely gone.
Yeah.
And it makes you realise. I mean, we all sort of look at life with a degree of hindsight. If I'd have known then what I know now.
Oh, crikey, yeah, absolutely. I
mean, one of my Jeeps got smashed up. My Scorpion tank got destroyed to the point where it ended up in the bin. My fire engine, I got bored with it being a fire engine after about, I don't know, 6 or 7 years, and painted it white and turned it into a police van.
Well, fair enough.
In white, yeah, and that ended up in the bin. And then the rest of my Action Man stuff, same as other toys, I either gave them away to my cousins who were younger than me, or I gave them away to neighbours' kids in the street where I lived. So as I started, sorry, mate, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm assuming Action Man was your go-to toy back as a kid. So that was like, say, 1974. 3 years later, Star Wars come out. Did that affect you in any way? Did that have an impact on your collecting or your toys, or were you too old by then?
I was never too old, cheeky sod. I was never allowed. I was never really allowed to go to the cinema. I weren't allowed to go to the cinema and see Jaws, but my sister did.
Okay.
I think my mum and dad were just a bit sort of like, we don't really want you watching that rubbish, My dad was quite old fashioned. So I never actually got to see Star Wars until well into the 80s.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So even though I could see the Star Wars toys by now appearing in shops, I wasn't really tempted to get them because my interest was still Action Man.
Yeah.
And of course, I realise it now, but what I didn't know at the time was the autism would not allow me to mix scales in my play. Yeah. So if I had Matchbox vehicles, like the proper old Matchbox vehicles, I would not play with them alongside the bigger Corgi or the bigger Dinky or the Matchbox Super Cubs. Okay. If they were a different scale, it didn't equate to me. Now I know some kids don't give a monkeys. They'll just mix and match, and most of my friends did that. They'd mix and match their scales, didn't care. But of course, I suppose it's an autism thing because you
I sort of like kept my like Star Wars with my Star Wars, with Transformers with my Transformers, and I kept them. I wouldn't mix Star Wars with Transformers and stuff like that and have like massive battles. I wouldn't do that. But it's funny because some collectors they only collect one scale. They won't collect two scales. So if they've got like say 3 3/4 inch or 6 inch, they won't have one of the other. They won't have them both in the same sort of like room or display. It's funny. People collect in different ways and they look at it differently, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, my collecting now is different from my playing, obviously. And because I gave so much away, I overly generous. I'm still like that now. I'm just
Yeah.
if I find something in a charity shop, the first thing I'll do is offer it up on the group chats on Instagram and say, who wants this stuff? I quite often buy it with other people in mind, not with me in mind.
Yeah.
So I'm sending. I've got to send some stuff to Scuba Pete. I've got to send some stuff to Jeff Barker. Recently sent some stuff to Tony. And I don't obviously don't charge for that. I'll buy them dirt cheap. So why should I charge for them?
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Always around the charity shops looking for bargains, and it's amazing what you can find. It's amazing what you can find.
So was G.I. Joe the only toy that you had then as a not G.I. Joe, bloody hell, Action Force, Action Man. So did you get into Action Force and G.I. Joe, or
I did start in the 80s, in the sort of I suppose probably mid 80s, no, probably early to mid 80s. Once I'd still seen Star Wars, I then started to collect, because we'd moved house by that time back to the East End of London from Waltham Abbey in Essex, where we had lived for a couple of years, which is that photograph in the garden that you've got.
Yeah. Okay.
But we had a toy shop, an old-fashioned, proper family-run toy shop at about a mile from where we lived, so you could walk to it. It was a proper, and it was there for donkey's years. And I was actually in there the last day of trading when they finally gave up and retired and closed down. And it was quite sad, because by that time I'm a grown man in my 30s, and yet I used to go in there when I was like 12, 13, 14. And it was sort of quite a sad day when they closed. But
did it close because for financial reasons, or was it just that they retired and that was it? They didn't want to pass it on to anybody.
It was father and son, and the father had retired. Yeah, and the son was running it, and they was just being put out of business basically by the corporations. They were just being squeezed out,
Oh wow!
Which happened to a lot of the old school toy shops, didn't it? Really, the Toys R Us and the Smiths and the Toy Masters sort of put these little businesses out of business, it was a shame. But
it is a shame, because I find some of those toy shops, they sell some really good stuff, some really unique items and stuff like that. And it's such a shame that you can't find them that easily. Sorry, you were going to say.
I'm lucky now where I live in up in the West Midlands, because in Worcester town centre, or city centre I should say, there's a shop called Toys of Worcester, and that is a proper old family run toy shop, and I get most of my stuff from there, and they tend to be a little bit more expensive than your eBays and your big shops, but I would rather give my money to a local run family business than to a corporation any day of the week. And if it's £5 or £10 dearer, so be it. Their overheads are obviously greater than the corporates. And there's another one I've recently discovered it. My brother-in-law put me onto it, although I've not visited it yet. But it's about 45 minutes drive from me, going more towards Birmingham, and it's a shop called Acme Toys, and they do everything like the Leicester shop. They do all the vintage stuff. Huge Action Man collection in there. All the old Dinky and Corgi cars and Stingray Thunderbirds, and it's one of those shops that when I go there, I'm gonna have to sell a kidney or something to pay for all the stuff that I'm gonna buy.
That's quality. So when did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you start becoming a collector?
There is a gulf of years between the two. Unfortunately. Because, like I say, because I was always a bit of a generous so-and-so, I'd give me toys to me cousins, and I'd give toys to the kids down the street. I remember one Christmas, I took a bag full of Action Man stuff three doors along to the neighbour's children, a just big bag of Action Man and an Iron Knight tank, and just said, Merry Christmas from me, because I was getting to a stage where I was too old for it. And my dad was quite down to earth when it came to materialistic things. His attitude would be, if you need money, sell it. Doesn't matter if it's got sentiment. If you need money, sell it. I'm the complete opposite of that. I take more after my mum, whereas she would treasure things. If someone gave her something as a gift, she would treasure it. No matter how much it was worth, she would never sell it. And I'm like that. I'm not very much like that. But I would rather give something away than sell it. So I would just literally take this bag of stuff up to the kids, and I'd end up then with no Action Man stuff at all because I'd just outgrown it and given it all away. I still had my police motorcycle and my police motorcycle rider. The bike was now very badly yellow, and as most of them end up, and it was pretty battered. It had bits missing off of it and lumps torn out of it because it was well played with. And I think I ended up selling that and my last remaining bits of Action Man stuff for 15 quid to some Action Man collector.
Wow.
And
Right.
again,
Do you regret? Do you regret that? I mean, like you say, you were talking about hindsight earlier. In hindsight, would you have done that?
no,
Or not really.
no. I don't regret, and it sounds really cheesy. It sounds really corny, but this is from the heart. I don't regret the smiles on the faces of the people that I gave these things to.
No, yeah, I get that. Yeah,
We're talking kids, and even adults. When I've sent stuff, and people do their unboxings and see what I've sent them. It's lovely to be able to see the looks on people's faces. It gives you a good, nice, warm feeling. It's that dopamine thing, isn't it? It's a nice feeling. But I do regret the amount of stuff that I gave away because I wish that I'd have kept. I mean, when I started collecting the police memorabilia and stuff like that, I mean, I would love to have had my police motorcycle and rider in that collection, along with the Canadian mounted police. So I had two of those on the horses. And the military police, I had two of those military police uniforms, like officers in Action Man uniforms, and they would look great in the Action Man collection. And that is something I'm now going to replace. I've got a couple of Action Men, but I intend to get hold of the motorcycle again and the rider. I'm not gonna go mental on Action Man like Tony has, like Tony Roberts. He's got a fantastic collection.
He has absolutely. Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
I've offered to be his butler for him free of charge, but he's having none of it.
So, do you have any of your toys from your childhood? Have you still got any of them? No.
The only thing that I've got left from my childhood is that 1979.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Let's get you up there.
The only thing that I've got left.
Wow.
And it's in great condition. It's in really top condition. Black Panther, Daredevil.
Wow. What year is that?
1979.
Wow.
So I'd have been 11.
Jeez. Wow.
And that's the only thing that I've got from my childhood. The only thing. It's incredible. And yet I had.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of the Action Man stuff I gave away, but I did start to collect the Star Wars stuff eventually because I loved the film. Once I'd seen the film, that was it. I was hooked. And again, I couldn't just have one Stormtrooper because that wouldn't be right. I had to have. So I ended up with about six Stormtroopers. I had an X-wing fighter and I had a snow speeder. I loved the snow speeder because that had all the working lights and sights.
Yeah, that was good vehicle. Yeah.
And I'd love to get that back. I would love to get that back to have that again. Again, I'd like to start collecting some of the old Star Wars stuff, but I wouldn't go mental. What I want to do is just replace what I had, and maybe get a TIE fighter. I always wanted a TIE fighter and never did because the thing was, by that time, I'm starting to kind of get to an age where people are looking at me and going, "You're a bit too old for toys now, son." You know what I mean? You're a bit too old for toys.
Yeah.
A lot of peer pressure as well because kids at school, if you were still, kids at school were into other kinds of things now, and I seem to be left behind a little bit because I was still playing with toys, and kids at school, and other kids at school were into other things by now, like girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So in the end, I just stopped playing with toys, but I did collect Action Force and I did collect the Star Wars toys, albeit briefly. And I did used to mix them because obviously they were all the same scale.
Same scale, yeah.
I did actually used to have. I used my SAS Action Force figures used to attack Darth Vader's palace and stuff like that. I used to have great fun with it. Great fun.
So what got you back into collecting then? After all that time of not buying toys and collecting stuff, what got you back into it?
I've always loved toys. I'm a huge child. I'm just a massive child. Vintage children, you know. I don't.
Yeah.
My wife coined the phrase "vintage children" who collect vintage toys, and I love
Yeah.
that. Instead of being called a nerd or a geek, I'm a vintage child. I think that works perfect. Without going into too much detail, I was in a previous relationship. I was with my partner. We weren't married, but we were together for 13 years.
Yeah.
She was unbelievable. She was against everything that I did. She didn't like my job. She didn't like the band that I was in because I used to play in a bass in a band. She didn't like the band. She didn't like me having any kind of life without her. So if I would have even suggested to start collecting toys, I wouldn't have suggested it because she would have just rubbished it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when we finally split up, and I then was living on my own and starting to get my sort of freedom back, I then started collecting the 43 scale die-cast Vanguards, cars and corgis.
Okay. Yeah.
I ended up with about 900 of those, and I scaled that down. I've still got about 400, but they're all police vehicles, only police stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I started collecting police memorabilia. Then I started collecting the boxed sort of 70s and 80s Corgi and Dinky police cars. So I've got a few of those still boxed, unplayed with. And then Playmobil. I've never had Playmobil as a kid, but my wife bought me for one Christmas a few years ago. She bought me a Playmobil police van.
Yeah,
working lights and sirens. And again, I'm quite anal. I'm quite OCD. The Playmobil stuff is all nondescript. It's just says police. That's it. It's very French looking. Playmobil's a German company, and so a lot of their police stuff as well is Polizei, and you can get it in green, in the green or the dark or the sort of blue. Now it is Polizei, which is the German for police. Well, obviously the French word for police is police. So the nondescript police cars work for the French market and they work for the English market. And then Playmobil do like the black and white cruisers with the lights on it, the red lights, to appeal to the North American market. So she bought me this police van, and I said to her, I'm going to Frankenstein it because I don't like it. I like it, but I don't like it that much. So what I did was I just
look at that.
I just got rid of all the sort of nondescript crapness of it and put a big Met stripe down it, Met crest on the door. I'll give it a fleet number as well, the LDX. Give it the roof codes.
Yeah.
I built the grill. I built the grill for it, the riot grill. Even put all the crap on the dash, just like a proper police carrier would have.
That's incredible. Do you know what, Keith? When I see stuff like that, the artsmanship, the know-how, it's just fantastic. I love that, and it's incredible. And I was going to ask you, what got you into Playmobil, and you've answered the question there.
Yeah. Well, it was my missus, because I had a couple of figures. I had a couple of the old 1974 vintage Jobra bobbies, because they did bobbies with a police helmet. So I had a couple of those, and she just bought me the van. And I said to her, I said,
incredible.
I've got to turn it into something. So I could have turned it into any police force, but I turned it into a Metropolitan Police because obviously that's where I worked for. And of course, then that was it. Then, wasn't it? So she then bought me a police car, which was the same nondescript old rubbish.
Yeah.
I turned that into a traffic car.
So these were your first customs.
My first Playmobil customs.
Yeah,
not my first customs. I've been building model kits for nigh on 50 years.
Wow.
I had my first model kit given to me as a Christmas present, and it was an Airfix model of the Scharnhorst, the German battleship. And I think I was about 7 years old, and me and my dad built it. My dad helped me build it, and it was unpainted. It was just crappy, but that was my first ever Airfix kit that I built.
Yeah.
Look, the height of my collecting my original first collection was plastic model kits of warships, and I had about 70 warships from the First and Second World War, U.S. Navy, German Navy, Royal Navy, Italian Navy, French Navy, Russian Navy. And when I moved out of my mum and dad's house to move in with my then current future to be ex-partner, I got rid of a lot because there's no way she would have these battleships in the house, even though we had a 4-bedroomed house and could have easily put them in one of the spare bedrooms on shelves. No, she wasn't having none of that. So I had to boot sale the whole lot, 70 battleships.
God, jeez.
And one of them, my absolute pride and joy, was a 1/400 scale Bismarck that had taken me 2 days to build, and it was about that big, and it had all the proper camouflage paintwork on it and everything. And so,
talking of the Bismarck, Keith, I bought my dad over a sustained period of time. I think it was over 2.5 years. The actual build the Bismarck, the big one with the working lights and the guns and stuff like that.
Wow.
So I got him that. I just thought, you know what, you've done so much for me over the last few years and stuff like that. And he was saying how much he liked it on the telly, see the advert. So I bought him that, and he's finished it, and it's absolutely phenomenal. It really is, yeah. And I thought that might have been something that you might have liked to do.
It's funny enough. I don't have the room for warships that size anymore. I've always had a massive interest in naval warfare, naval history. I mean, there's dozens of books behind me on the Titanic and naval history and stuff like that. And I saw those adverts for that magazine, and I think it would have worked out like something like £2,500, wouldn't it, to complete the actual ship?
It wasn't cheap, it wasn't cheap, but you saying you like war stuff and stuff. Have you ever been to Weymouth?
Yes.
And so when you got Weymouth, you've got the little the harbour bit, and you've got the river, and then on the other side you've got that fort, haven't you, and all that sort of stuff. Well, me and Georgie, we went and had a look down there one year. We went camping down there, and we took a trip out to the fort, and so you get to walk all around inside the fort, and they had this massive, it was like a massive war room, and on it there was this display, and it was battleships from every kind of nation, from the earliest all the way through to modern day, and they were all made of matchsticks.
Wow.
I shit you not, and I was like blown away. And I was talking to the guy, I said, how do you remember because back in those days you didn't have the internet, you didn't have like proper images, you just had and it was the detail was absolutely incredible, and they were all to scale. So you'd have like the Bismarck, and then you'd have like the American aircraft carriers, like the Enterprise back in the day. Then it just went from era to era to era to era, and it was just incredible. And he must have had about over 80-90 ships. It was just phenomenal. And again, I don't know whether he still does that display, but it was absolutely brilliant. And I love all that kind of history stuff and walking around old war museums and stuff like that as well. I just find it so fascinating.
Yeah, same
with
me. I used to be a researcher and historian for something that was called the Anglo-Zulu War Research Society. They're long defunct now, unfortunately, but I was also the publicity officer for their magazine. We had membership all over the world. I mean, and some of our patrons one of our patrons was Chief Mangosuthu Buthelezi, who actually played King Cetshwayo in the 1964 film Zulu.
Oh wow! Okay, that was a great film. That was an absolutely fantastic film. I love that film. Yeah.
And I used to collect Zulu war memorabilia as well. I used to loads, and again I've got rid of most of that. I've still got a painting. I've still got a load of videos, DVDs, and I've got some books. Some of the books are signed by the authors, because obviously we frequented the circles of the authors and the people that do the films, the documentaries and stuff like that. And I've still got an original antique Zulu War assegai downstairs, which is was picked up from one of the battlefields. So I've still got a few bits. I'm still very interested in I think I've got all kinds of interests. That's the thing. I don't just collect toys. I collect books. I'm going to start collecting the Action Man again. Although I've got some Action Man stuff. I mean, my
Yeah.
missus bought me that for my 50th birthday, and that is an
Oh,
Action
okay.
Man, an Action
What's
Man Bobby
that?
Moore.
Oh,
Action Man Bobby Moore.
that's
And
awesome. I like that.
It does actually
Yeah,
look
yeah.
a little. I like this. Is not too bad.
It does, doesn't it? It's all right,
Yeah.
isn't it? I like that. Yeah, yeah. Sweet.
And that goes nice. That goes nicely with my vintage Action Man in the West Ham kit.
Look at that. Wowzers.
And I've
Awesome.
got a carded one as well. It's a 40th
Wow.
anniversary. It's a 40th anniversary reissue. It's not an original.
Yeah.
I think that uniform came out in about, or that kit came out in about 1964.
Wow.
And I think an original one on card. I don't even know if any exist, mate. To be honest, still.
Going back to your Playmobil, I've got some pictures for you, and
Yeah.
this fascinates me. The Enterprise. Look at
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
That is. And this is yours, yeah.
This is mine. Yeah.
And so have you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 figures?
Yes. Yeah.
That is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
It
And
is.
then you've got this one here.
That's the Enterprise. Yeah. That's just the
Yeah,
same
that's it.
piece. I've
Yeah.
got it. Actually, I've got it. Sorry, mate.
I've got a picture here, and the size of it, it's just.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was that big until I saw that picture. It was like just wow.
Yeah.
That
Again, that's my missus. She bought me that for Christmas.
Good God, wow.
And my wife, Catherine, her name is, but we call her Cat. I'm surrounded by cats. She is the absolute polar opposite from my ex. The absolute polar opposite. She encourages everything. And this is what I said to you earlier on, you know, nothing I do or say anymore would surprise or shock my wife. She knows everything.
But that's a good thing, though, Keith. That's a good thing, mate.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a cliche, but she is my absolute best friend. She saved my life. If I hadn't met her, I'd have been long dead because I was heading for a very, very downhill road.
Yeah.
She pulled me out of it, and she's now. I mean, she's most of her working life. She's been running pubs and hotels and managing hotels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And she's had a complete change of career now, and she's a student nurse.
Wow.
And she's specialising in learning disabilities. So
awesome.
So I'm a great patient. She'll make a great nurse because she's put up with me for 14 years. With
your Playmobil, you've done your 2-piece. Oh bloody hell!
The police cars,
customizations, your police cars. Yeah, you've just recently done this. That is just incredible, Keith. That really is. And are these actual Playmobil cars, or did you just make them up into Playmobil? They are.
That box in the background is the Playmobil mini box.
Where's that? Oh, I see where you are. Yeah.
You actually see over the top of the red one. You can see the Mini Cooper badge.
Oh, look at that! It's just absolutely incredible. What gave you the inspiration to do that? What made you think, do you know what? I'm going to start customizing.
The first custom that I did, the first proper custom from TV, I think, thinking about was probably the flag, from the Knight Rider truck.
What are you talking about this?
The Knight Rider lorry, yeah.
Again, that is just phenomenal. So I'm assuming that was initially a Playmobil lorry.
Yes, that's a standard Playmobil lorry, which I found on Marketplace. I think somebody was selling it for about £7. So I went and picked it up, and I thought, because to buy them new, they're about 70 or 80 quid. And there's no way I'm going to buy something that expensive and then Frankenstein it into something else with a possibility that it might not work. So I thought, but for seven quid, all right, at the very worst, I'm going to have a black lorry. At the very best, I'm going to have a decent Knight Rider truck. The thing about that
Knight Rider truck, bloody hell! Look at this, Jesus Christ, that's inside the detail.
Yeah. Well, what annoyed me a little bit, kind of sunk my battleship a little bit, was the fact that it's not big enough to actually fit the Knight Rider car in the back. The Knight Rider car is a little bit wide. I did toy with the idea of getting another trailer and extending it so that it was like twice the length. But as I say, the Knight Rider car won't physically fit inside the container, so that was a start. So I thought, well, the next best option then is to just turn it into the living quarters, turn it into the living quarters and the mechanics area of the truck. And that's what I did. And I put all the lights in there. The red light on Bonnie's controls there. There's the map in the background, the computer there, terminal, the Knight Industries badge on the door. Nice, comfortable area there for Devon to sit.
How much research did you have to do for that, or was you a massive fan and you knew what it looked like, or did you have to go keep looking back at videos and stuff like that?
No,
Knight Rider.
I loved Knight Rider as a kid. I had a brother called Michael, so it was good fun to tell people that my brother was Michael Knight. So I knew a little bit about it anyway. But obviously, as you say, with the internet, you could just literally just Google interior of the flag truck, and there you've got it. And over various series, though, the interior changed. So for me, it's a bit of dramatic license. I mean, it's not an exact copy of the flag truck because you can't fit the kit inside it. So for me, it's a complete Frankenstein. It's a toy, and even though it's a custom, it can still be played with because it's robust to be played with, and it's got 3 different battery packs in it for the lights. The headlights work. I customized the headlights. It's
amazing. I've got so much time for people that take time, effort, and they've got the skill, the know-how, and the artistry to do something like that. Whether you're drawing, whether you're creating something like this, it's just look at that. Look at that. How long did that take from start to finish to do that truck?
Can't remember. I suppose from start to finish, probably about 4 or 5 days, because you're waiting for paint to dry.
Not too long then. I thought that would have taken ages.
Oh no! Those minis, those Italian job minis, I knocked them out in a day.
Really well.
I mask them up, and again, I think it's an OCD thing. Once I've started, I have to, and this can be my downfall because sometimes I'll playing with these bloody things before the paint's properly dry. Now I shoot myself in the foot, and I have to respray them again. But no, this took me about stripped it all down, masked off the glass that wouldn't be removable, because some of these Playmobil toys are so easy to take apart, but some of them are absolute buggers. Some of them are absolute sods. Like the minis, the glass won't come out of the minis, so I have to individually mask off all of the transparencies and all of the chrome work, and spray it, and then spray it again, and then spray it again.
God, you've got to have so much patience. You've got to have so much patience to do that.
Yeah. And I'll show you how anal I am. I even actually researched the original paint colours of those minis. To get,
I'm going to get those up again because they just look absolutely phenomenal. Look at this.
The red, the white was called Old English white. The red, can't remember the name of the red now, but the red was discontinued in the 70s. So what I got there was like a signal red, which is like almost like a post office red, which is about as close as you can get to the original colour. And the blue, I've got the exact blue shade that was used on the original 1969 film. Was it 1969 it came out, I think?
Oh God, I can't remember
that. So that was I'll just get the flag out of the way. And of course, the thing about that is you've got the fire extinguisher and the shovel on the back as well. Look,
Yes, that's just Keith. That is absolutely tremendous. And I mean, what is it about Playmobil that gets you so sucked in and so passionate about it? Because I know Shabby's the same. He's loving his Playmobil at the moment.
Yeah. I think just because they just make absolutely fantastic toys, and the figures. I mean, the figures are absolutely dire, but there's something lovable about the figures. There's something lovable about them. They're not action figures; they are toys. And the thing about Playmobil, I mean, it was a German company called Jobra. And it was started in 1974 or 1973. I think the original designs came out for it, and the first Playmobil figures came out in 74. And they've stuck to their original idea. They intended them to be toys, and they are still toys. And that's what I admire about a company like Playmobil or Jobra, because whereas Lego have gone kind of the other way. Lego now are sort of like massively expensive, and they're not aimed at kids anymore. They're really not aimed at kids anymore. They're aimed at very much the adult collector, the adult builder. You could say the same thing with the Playmobil stuff, because how many kids remember Knight Rider or the A-Team, or even James Bond's Aston Martin?
Yeah.
But they are still toys, and you can still play with them. I've got the Ghostbusters car. Jody Spoor in Holland. He very kindly just sent me a Ghostbusters Ecto 1. And so that got me away. That got me away from the police. Then you see, because up to that point, everything I was doing was police.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, sod it, in for a penny, in for a pound. I've collected the Ghostbusters. Then the missus bought me the Knight Rider. She bought me the DeLorean, the Aston Martin, the James Bond. And I just thought, you know, my sister-in-law again bought me an old, I think it must have been a charity shop find, an old Playmobil police van. It was incomplete. And I'm like, well, what am I going to do with this? And so she said, well, I thought that if you decided to do your Italian job at any time, you could turn that into the security truck from the Italian job, like the bullion van, the gold bullion van. And I was like, I weren't really all that serious about doing the Italian job minis. My wife, I bought a Mini Cooper, which I've still got, like untouched, uncustomized. And I just thought, wouldn't it be nice to do the Italian job and do the figures as well? Because the figures are fun, because you can recreate the characters of the figures.
Yeah.
When she said about doing the security truck, I thought, well, all right, I'll have a go. And I pulled up a load of pictures of the security truck and got a general idea of what I could do with this, and I ended up with that. So that's the security van off of the Italian. It's not an exact copy, obviously, because it's not the right sort of truck, but people get the general idea, don't they? They'll get the general idea. Armor. And the lettering is raised lettering from Hobbycraft, because if you look at it's raised lettering that's on the side of the truck.
Oh, you got inside as well. Let's have a look.
The fact that it's got a blue light on the roof, I couldn't let that go without having it flashing, so I just wired that up, and that's got a flasher on it. So, and I've got the security guards for it, and of course I've got all the gold bars. So, so once I've done that, I'm now stuck, and I've got to do the minis. So now I'm doing the minis, and I've done the red one and the white one, and now I've just got the blue one to do.
Absolute quality. They are. They're brilliant, Keith. I really am. I just, fantastic. What would you say, or what custom are you most proud of?
Oh, blimey. Oh, that's a tricky one, mate. The night truck was a biggie, but I think this was because it's just so different from what it originally started looking like with all the guards around the wheels and stuff. And then very, very, very recently, I've finished this, which is me Squad 51 paramedic car. This was just an ambulance. And I had to cut the back to pieces, take all the back off, and cut it down with a Dremel, and I've got the oxygen tanks on there. If any of yous out there remember the 1970s TV show Emergency, it was about the Los Angeles County Fire Department paramedics who were called Squad 51. And even though this is not the exact vehicle, because the exact vehicle had a much longer snout, I think it was a Ford or a Dodge. Even with my custom abilities, I weren't able to do anything with the front of that. But the back's just a complete custom, and the railings. And of course, you've got to have an open locker. So in there, And what I even did, because I used to use what was called a biophone. It was like a field radio. It was like an orange case, and so I even did a custom of that. I can't get the bloody thing open now. Even did a customer
Look at that.
iPhone.
Jesus Christ.
That's actually the there's a telephone, Playmobil telephone in there, and a switchboard and everything else. And
Wowzers.
so, and of
The
course,
attention to detail.
I've done the figures, and all the decals and badges and patches are all sort of they're all sort of hand designed. So
That's just amazing. It really is. I'm loving seeing these customs. They really are. You know, I can't pick them up enough, Keith. Absolutely.
Great
And you got some more figures here. What made you do the village people?
that again was just a complete laugh. That was a
Yeah.
I got Playmobil do mystery packs where you just buy them and you don't know what's in them. And one of these mystery packs that I got had the Native American in it.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, what I intend to do is because I've got 5 grandchildren.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do sometime this year, probably about May or June, I'm going to get one of those huge, great summer houses built in the garden, and then I'm going to have a Playmobil city inside it. And I've been collecting this stuff for the last year. So I've got hospital, I've got fire station, I've got an airport, got a police station, I've got houses, post office, restaurants, I've got everything. So I've got everything, a train set, everything you could need. And it's going to be my Playmobil collecting room, but a part of it's also going to be a playable area for the grandchildren.
Oh wow.
There'll be a playroom for them as well.
So what do they think about your collection and your Action Man and your Playmobil stuff? I mean, do they say anything? I bet they can't wait to come round, can they?
The oldest, yeah, the oldest is 8. She understands it better than the others do because the others are still very young. But she loves it. She thinks Granddad's like just an absolute nutcase. Basically, she just loves the idea that Granddad's got more toys than she has. You know. And I torment her at Christmas. I go, I've got better toys than you. I've got better toys than you. But she loves it.
That is awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah.
She's going to help me put the Playmobil city together as well. So we'll have a kids touch.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah,
so, it's going to be very user friendly. So,
absolutely. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I've got 2 questions left for you, Keith. I think you probably know what they're going to be. Firstly, question number 9: what gives you that toy collecting buzz?
Oh, the fact that I'm just a big kid at heart, and I love toys, and I love finding things in charity shops. I love going to a charity shop and finding something, like going to a charity shop and finding that, like 50 pence.
Oh, K9.
Yeah, and it's damaged one with a side that comes off, but the side was with it. I mean, that'd be the first thing that'd get lost. 50 pence. And I found this in a charity shop as well, and this was £1.75, and this is from the same series.
TARDIS.
It's a TARDIS, but it's not just a TARDIS, it actually bloody works still.
Jesus Christ. Wow.
£1.75 from a charity shop. Oh. And it's compatible with the 5.5-inch Doctor Who figures that you can get.
Look at that, yeah.
Of which I've got quite a few of those because Tom Baker was my favourite Doctor Who fan. So I've got Tom Baker and I've got a few of the 5.5-inch figures. So the problem is, recently, most of my stuff used to be on wooden cases, like bookshelves.
Yeah.
And within the last year, we've had a new floor laid in the lounge, a wood laminate floor, and so everything had to come out to lay that. So the collection was all literally in bits and pieces. The stuff that's going to be in the Playmobil city, that's all in the bedroom in boxes. That's all stacked up. I can't wait to get that out in the garden when the summer house is built and it's all put away because that gives us back our bedroom again. But in the meantime, I've not actually got a designated display at the moment. I've got bits and pieces that are complete in the cases downstairs, but the other glass cases are just a mix and match of all kinds of stuff. I need to get another glass display case, and then I need to put it all into some sort of order properly. So at the moment, I've literally got bits everywhere. I mean, where I'm at the moment, this is Catherine's office, Kat's office, where she's a huge Stephen King fan, so this is her office where she
Okay.
does her university work when she's not actually in the hospitals.
Yeah.
But we've turned it into a Stephen King themed room. So if you look behind me there on the door, you've got Red Rum from The Shining.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got a Salem's Lot
Awesome.
poster over there, and all the It figures, Pennywise the Clown and stuff like that. And she's got
Oh
some
wow.
first edition Stephen
Yeah.
King books that I bought her. And so this is a work in
Awesome.
progress. This is a work in progress as well. This will be a spare room, office, and a horror room. So she's quite a strong collector as well. She's got some
Good.
stuff now. She's got figures, yeah. So I mean, far from taking the piss out of me for collecting toys, she collects them herself now as well.
No, listen. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's
Of course not.
You know, it's only since I've been doing this and meeting people and meeting people like yourself and like Scuba Pete and everybody else in the community that I'm not the only person who collects toys. Do you know what I mean? And it's so nice that we do have a community where we can all share these collections and everybody collects differently and stuff like that. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's great that you're part of it, Keith, because I think you're an integral part of that as well because of your customs and stuff like that. So awesome, man. Absolutely awesome.
I've made some wonderful friends in this community. I mean, and the community is so
absolutely,
so generous as well. You know, people just donate stuff, and I mean that's not what I'm in it for. I mean, I don't. I've not had tons of stuff sort of given to me, but but I love sending stuff to people, and you know, and sort of boosting up their.
Going back to that Doctor Who TARDIS, that noise used to freak the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah,
I don't know why. It was something about that noise, and I wasn't. It really did scare me. And then listening to it again, there I was like, "Wow, that took me back to when I was younger."
it does.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
When I saw that in the charity shop, I thought I've got to get it because it's a police box and it goes with my police collection. Goes with my police. But of course, it's Doctor Who. When I actually put the batteries in it, I didn't expect it to still work, but it does.
That's incredible.
It goes now not in the police collection, but in the Doctor Who collection. So brilliant,
awesome stuff. Bonus. What the last question for you, Keith? What does your collection mean to you?
It keeps me out of trouble. I suppose the best thing the best thing that it's done for me is give me therapy. It's been very therapeutic. I mean, even the customers, they can be a real pain in the backside sometimes, especially when things start to go wrong. But when they all come together, when it starts to work, you then think, wow, you know, what a great feeling that is. I do this purely for myself. I do this purely selfish. I don't sell any of this stuff. So that's the only flag there'll ever be. That's the only bullion van there'll ever be. That's the only Squad 51 there'll ever be. I'll never replicate it and sell it because I don't feel that I've got the confidence to do that, to sell it.
Yeah.
So I do it purely for my own interest, purely for my own perverse interest. And I'm already now thinking, now that Squad 51's finished, I'm now thinking, what's the next thing that I can do now? What's the next? I've got the Blue Mini to do, but what's the next thing I can do?
What are you wanting to do? What is the one thing that you would most like to do, customize for Playmobil?
Most like to? I don't know really. I don't know, mate. What I suppose if you've got the 3 minis and you've got the bullion truck from the Italian job, you've got to have that coach, haven't you? You've got to have the bloody great coach. But I think that might even be a bridge too far for me because Playmobil do make a big coach, but it would take a lot of Frankensteining, cutting and cutting new wheel arches for the second set of wheels on the front of it and stuff like that. I don't know. Never say never because I never thought that Squad 51 would end up looking the way it does because the amount of chopping and changing that needed and rebuilding using sort of balsa wood and plastics slats and stuff.
You've got to get a sense of self-satisfaction when you've done something and you think, shit, that's turned out better than I thought. I mean, you've got to Kind of
Yeah.
be proud of yourself, Keith, for doing what you're doing, mate.
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah. I mean, so yeah, I mean, like again, that Squad 51. I said to Kat, like, that's come out better than I thought it was going to come out. I thought it'd be pretty rank. But then on the other hand, you see, I'm my own biggest critic, and I'll quite often look at what I've done. And go, you know what? That's not brilliant. That could be better. It does for me. It works for me, but it could be better. And this is why I'd never make them to sell them, because I'm too critical. You know, it does for what I use it for. But someone else would look at it and go, "I'm not paying that." Because you know what people are like in any walk of life now. They want something for nothing. I don't appreciate it. If something's been customized. It's someone's put a lot of time and effort into doing that. A lot of man hours, a lot of working hours into doing that.
Absolutely.
You can't expect it to be sold for cheap. But on the outside, so I would rather just not sell anything.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, like I said to you at the start, I've got a lot of time for people that actually take the time out and do stuff themselves, like you with your customizations, whether it be Shabby with his furniture and his business, whether it's Chris Miwa doing his costumes for cosplay, anybody like that, artists that have got a talent and they share their art and talent with people. I'm all for it. I just think it's absolutely fantastic. Keith, mate, that has come to the hour. I'm afraid that has come to the end of the conversation. It's been an absolute delight, and it's been really fascinating talking to you, mate, one-to-one. It really has, and I've thoroughly enjoyed chatting to you, man. Where can people find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook, simply as Keith Knight. Just look for the Playmobil stuff on my profile and my masthead. I'm on Instagram, but I'm only on Instagram for the groups. Really, I'm a technophobe. I don't know how to use Instagram the same way I know how to use Facebook. So I don't know how to post pictures or anything like that. But I've got an account, and I'm there as Keith Knight 6. So if you want to send me a message or drop me a note, and you can always find me in the live chats of the toy channels on live chats. I'm always there, hovering around like a bad penny.
Yeah. Not at all, mate. Not at all. I will put your Facebook link on the description below, as well as your Instagram link in the description below. I've got to say once again, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, because I know we've chatted before, but it's always been like a Mickey take or a bit of banter here, there, and everywhere within like a group chat online and stuff like that. But this has been absolutely fantastic, absolutely fascinating, and I've loved every minute of it, mate. So thank you.
You can never stop talking about toys, can you? Really, you could just go on forever.
No, that's it. Right. Well, all I've got left to say is thank you, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate your support as always. Oh, hang on. Here we go. Sorry. I am the voice of Light Industry 2000's microprocessor, KITT for easy reference, KITT if you prefer. Oh, wow. And that's the actual Knight Rider car, is it, that they've done?
It's the actual Playmobil Knight Rider car with the exact kit voice as well. They just think of everything. I really do think of everything. They're just
awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Well, that's the end of the chat. Again, thank you for watching. Thank you for support. Take care. Stay safe. And we shall see you in the next one. This has been Keith Knight, absolute legend when it comes to Playmobil customs.
Thanks, mate.
Man. Take care now. No worries. Cheers now.
Good night,